You know what we're not going to do at the end of the show? We're not going to play One Shining Moment.
We're not going to sing down. What is it? Down Home Alabama. What is it called?
Sweet Home Alabama?
Is it Sweet Home Alabama? Not Alabama. Back Home in Indiana. The Jim Neighbors version.
Oh, well, we might do that later.
R.I.P.
Ooh, Jesus.
That make.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get some more. Have your hands. Some more. Just get some more.
Well, hello, and welcome to my whiskey den. What is wrong? My computer is all screwed up. And that's better now. Your favorite public access whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. Thank you for being with us this evening. I know it is a big basketball night, but once again, we're going to clash with every Monday evening event like that just because we have our event and it's better. We're talking about Indiana whiskey. We're going to take a lesson from Bob Knight. We're going to throw a chair in the middle of the evening and break it up. So I have my good friends Mitch and Mike with me. Thank you everyone in the chat for being here as well too. Before we go any further, Mike, do you want to talk about the Bar Cart Co-op? I will even give you the power.
You're going to give me
the broadcast before we started.
Wow, you're going to give me the power. All right, let me get my cursor. Let me get my business near the business. Hey, you got to do it right. Okay.
Like this.
We are proud members of the Bar Cart Co-op, which is a collection of friends who create content for the whiskey and other distilled spirits public. The granddaddy of all shows, Distillers Talk, coming to you at the end of the week. This is a great nerd deep dive after hours discussion with people in the industry, not just distillers, but there have been writers, grain vendors, still builders, trying to think of who else, bar owners, bartenders. It's a great show. A lot of really great interviews that have been coming up on there. Please check that one out. Also, this one, you can't put your finger on this one because you never know when it's going to come out. The One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, which comes out as needed. This is where Alan answers all of your distilling questions and puts things to the test, not just equipment, but the mash bills themselves, and also testing hypothesis and methodologies. Just subscribe to it on YouTube and look for it on Instagram as well. You will not be disappointed. Right now, he is doing a Pachuga, and I think it's just really cool that he's attacking it, and you're seeing successes and failures as he does things, mostly successes. The sexiest, well, once again, People Magazine, sexiest duo alive, Bourbon Turntable. And this is the classiest of the bunch as well. This comes out Wednesdays on all of your streaming platforms and on the YouTube. This is the blending the love of whiskey with the love of music. Fantastic interviews. Many good, strong two-part interviews have happened with Todd Leopold, Nancy Fraley, Steve Gorman, and Mr. Jason Bronner's been on there multiple times. Bands such as the Cold Stairs and Sweet Lady. There are other bands coming up that will be on there as well. They had one recently with David Levine. That was a really good conversation. And last week partook of the one where we talked about the 50th anniversary of
Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side of the Moon. You just hate when you get old, man. And then the other, if you have ghosts, you have everything, which is the paranormal podcast, not just about paranormal in spirits and spirit making, but also just in the world. This is a really fascinating show. It is well researched and thought out. It's fun. Comes out. They've done 2 seasons. It comes out like on around Saturdays. It's on Spotify. Look it up. It's worth it. There's been some really cool things that, whether you believe it or not, I think you will find yourself coming away going, huh. It's really good. Very well done with Alan and Kimberly, and sometimes little Miss Penny.
Oh, that's true. She has some good episodes.
She always steals the show.
Well, that's what they're supposed to do. But she has some good questions and stuff. So, we're proud part of all that fun stuff. And we have a show coming up that we were just discussing. It is on the 17th with Edelbrand. Now, we had some of their stuff. Mike, what did you send us like a couple weeks ago? We had a little free-for-all. And that was
they had that. Well, basically, it was a distilled wit, and which was very unique, very fun. Look them up. They are in the process of getting on Sealbox.
They are.
So
Excellent.
Hit up Sealbox and ask them when it's going to arrive. But they're trying to get it because they do not have a problem selling their product.
No.
So if you can get it on Sealbox, that would be great because you get to try a lot of their things. There are, as we were talking before the show, 9 brandies that they do, and I got to try them all twice. It was good. And then there's 3 of the distilled beer projects, and these actually are the five that we will be doing with them. There are 3 of the brandies and 2 of the distilled beer products. So,
which I think they want to come to the Brandy Bash next winter.
Oh yeah, and I've told them, it's like, you guys would be perfect for Distill America. Trying to get in touch with them, they'd be a great place to have them to show their stuff off.
Yeah, that would be a really neat thing.
Yeah,
but another one of those where we're kind of edging out on the side of not whiskey but spirits, and that's only because they're really good.
Yeah, no, it's just the brandies are good. I mean, they're good. I mean, they're just. I'm really looking forward to you guys trying them because they are very well done.
All right. So we're gonna open up Indiana Whiskey Night now. So Mitch, you've been kind of quiet. Let's. Which whiskey are you picking first right here for what you're sipping on this evening?
In honor of my girlfriend, one of her favorite whiskeys is going to be the William Dalton. So starting with there.
Oh.
This is the bottled in bond, so it's not a single barrel. Whoops. But one of the ones I grabbed from the distillery when I went up there the first time.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I'm never going to argue that. It is one of my absolute favorite stories in whiskey when people are picking things, because it sounds like it's made up, her life story, but it's all true. So, I mean, you can't argue that. So I absolutely love that one as well too. I didn't grab that one. I don't know, maybe I did. Hold on. I got a slew of things here of little bottles. No, I got some Lee Sinclair's, a varietal of some of that, and a Dalton back there from Spirits of French Lick. Mike, what are you going to start on?
I'm actually starting with. I started with the Old Clifty Apple Brandy Hazmat. And then I thought, you know what? I'm gonna have a little fun. So I mixed it with Maddie, with a Maddie single barrel, and I'm gonna put a little more Maddie in there because it's that has that there's like a strong apple tartness on the end of that hazmat, and it's really sticking into Maddie. But I have a question for you guys, because because
if we're going with Spirits of French Lick, I might as well pick a Lee Sinclair here. So there you go. I might as well keep with it.
Okay. So my question, and I think I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but just for opening the discussion, is sometimes when people hear Indiana whiskey, there's some negativity, and I think the negativity goes to, 1, people not being honest, or 2, people trying to hide behind an NDA when you know perfectly good and well that they didn't make it anyway, and that's what seems to cause more problems. I'm just curious, and this is nothing against MGP, Ross and Squibb, however they want to be known and all, because they make a lot of whiskey and they make a lot of really good whiskey. But the negativity, because when people see Made in Indiana, that's the first thing that people think. And well, I think some people are also thinking Starlight, because Starlight does a lot of sourcing too, or producing for sourcing. So I'm just curious what your guys' opinion.
I'll let you lead first, Mitch.
Gee,
I mean, I can go. I can
No.
go off on that, but I'll let you lead if you want to.
So I mean, I think there was a shift a few years ago with MGP, right? Kind of around a little after OKI 10 and 12 came out, right? Because I remember when OKI 10 and 12 came out, and I was just there like, cool, Indiana bourbon. You can get it everywhere. Not okay. I'm kind of done. And then, 6 months later, people were like, "You have OKI 10? I'll give you $600 for it." And it was like, let's calm down, guys. There's a lot of MGP out there. Like, what's going on? So I forget how many years ago that was, but before that, it was just like Indiana bourbon. Nobody really cares. Like, some of it's good, some of it's bad. Been embroiled in a lot of lawsuits. Give me my George T. Stagg and whatever else, right? And then enough people put out enough good sourced whiskey that was like, oh, no, we need some of this. God, that was what, 5 years ago, somewhere around there. I think it was kind of.
That's what I was thinking when you were talking. I'm like, it was at least 5, but I don't know. When in the past, when you saw Indiana, and forgive me, Kentucky, but I believe maybe there was a stigma put out by the lower state about the quality of the upper state's alcohol, or maybe just that I don't want to say elitism feel, but there is a little bit of an upper edge to the Kentucky bourbon. I mean, you're establishing yourself as the center of the bourbon world, so I mean, you got to have a little swagger, right? I mean, so I think they kind of looked down on that, and people were kind of leaning against that. I think, I don't know. You all think when it comes from MGP, I don't get as hyped up on it as everyone else, because like you said, Mitch, I remember when the 10 and the 12-year-old, and it was that long ago, it was $50-$60 a bottle. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, and no one was excited. And then someone went out and put a different label on it, and everyone lost their mind. I'm not everyone else. Maybe it appreciated. Maybe it could be $100 a bottle now due to things and then bottles and changes and all sorts of things. But selling it off the bat for $400, $500, $600, it's just no, it's not. Or even to $250, $300, like and you didn't do anything to it.
Yeah,
that's my thing. Like you're putting out what is made in Indiana, no big deal. So how come one company that's selling it at let's call it 8 years, 8 years, 8 years, 8 years? Why the hell are they? And you're not doing anything. Why the hell is one at 70? Why at 120 and one at 140? My problem, and if there was a dramatic, quality, I understood, but do you think you're really getting? It annoys me, because that's the part where you want to look to be who distilled it, and if you're really giving credit to the people, is it just the marketing that you're giving credit to at that point? And I understand why MGP did what they did, and we're like, we're going to pull back, we're going to start selling our own stuff. If we can get $150 or $150 a bottle for the same stuff that we were getting before, why the hell not? I don't know. I thought it was long overdue for their grasp of control, because they have a large chunk of the overall market in the country. Mm-hmm. I may be wrong, because I have never researched it, but I'd want to say at least 20% of the shelves.
So probably, and especially with rye, rye alone, if you just took the rye market. So, yeah, I'm sorry, Mitch, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so it's all about marketing, right? So they just didn't invest in marketing for a long time. And that is a great business plan sometimes. Like, hey, if you don't have a marketing team, you don't have a marketing expense, right? And they could make a very consistent amount of money sourcing for other people without all of these extra expenses. And they let basically all of these other brands end up doing their marketing for them. And then they acquired Luxco, like a company that was sourcing, a lot of stuff and doing really well based off their marketing. And we're like, hey, we've built up this amazing grassroots marketing platform and made our whiskey worth, 6 times what we were selling it 4 or 5 years ago. Let's sell it ourselves now. And it's like, yeah, that is a really good plan, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and Kevin was bringing up the NDAs that MGB has, and that makes sense. There was a lot of Harvey had that with several people. Where after a little bit, you're like, oh, I mean, they actually make your stuff, even though that's out there. Eventually, you figure out where it's coming from and what's going on. Ooh.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the end of the day is, do you like the whiskey? Are you willing to pay whatever that cost is? Are you willing to, if someone's maybe not being honest, but where they're getting the whiskey, but they're not being honest about it, but you like it. And that's, that's your personal choice. But you do also have, I think, more in the last couple of years, really, I think more in the last year, I've seen more of people who are non-distilling producers who are doing barrel picks, maybe doing a finish, maybe not doing blending, but coming up with really good picks, able to charge good money because it is barrel strength, unfiltered, really good pick. Maybe it's got a finish or maybe not, but getting a solid product because they've been able to get those. And that, again, it's like, is that bottle worth $110 to you? For a lot of people, yes, it is. And it's good, and I was going through my list of stuff over the last week of, knowing that I have things that are MGP, that have come out of MGP or have something blended in there. But I mean, there's a fair amount of them. I mean, between say Smoke Wagon, I've got there's a Whistle Pig that's MGP instead of Canadian. There's the Buzzard's Roost, which that's how you do sourcing right. And then some of the Good Times and there's got a Red Line and a couple others like that, and some of them are just picks that are finished. Some are not, but the end of the day, is it good? Yeah. I mean, I like it. And is nobody doing anything, at least the stuff I've got, it's not anyone doing anything weird, or claiming that it's theirs or hiding that fact. Yeah. At least none of the stuff that I've got. So
no, but I think what you're bringing up is good. That's why I switched over to the Remus Reserve, not this year, but I think the year before. Just to see.
And that's happens. Really good. That Remus Repeal Reserve is really good.
I remember it sitting on the shelves for like 2 years. The first one, because everybody was like, I don't really want that.
The first one too, no one knew how to handle it. And like each year it has gotten better, but I mean for what this was, it's actually really good. I mean, obviously the price has gone up recently. But how did that original question start? Because I didn't want to jump too far.
I was just addressing the whole, Indiana, where Indiana gets a bad rap, I think. But again, also even for early on in the relationship, getting to know Alan, he said, "Hey, MGP kept the lights on in Indiana distilling for a lot of years." So, and they did a lot of good for a lot of people. And it is a massive operation. They produce a lot of distillate for a lot of people. And then there's stuff, that people like Nancy Fraley get to get their pick and do things like for Joseph Magnus, picking old stocks and then doing some of the finishing like that. High West picked their stuff for a long time. Those are all good whiskeys. People have been able to survive and start businesses because of MGP. So, it's
Well,
Yeah.
that's the other side of the good is how many places sourced for 2 to 4 years before putting out some of their own stuff, or blending together some of their stuff with other products to that point to stay alive.
Yeah.
So
That's a really good question, because I really think, I think when they award stuff, I think it should also be known that if you're going to win
it
an
should be
award with it,
known.
you should not hide. You shouldn't be able to hide the fact
Yes.
of where it was made when you're winning an award with it, because
Mhm.
and they are a non-distilling producer, and they've done some. I had which one did I have? I had the president, the
Okay.
presidential, and it was good. I liked it. It was really good, but I knew, because it said from Indiana, and I was pretty sure it was MGP. But if you win the award with it, I think it should be forthcoming on there. It's like, yeah, this is MGP. And
Do you think it should go as far as Compass Box, where it's literally we had this much
I
of this,
I
that
love
much
how
of this?
Compass Box does it, because it's really the right way.
I mean,
Why
I would
hide
like
it?
to, even if you had an NDA, you could be like, distilling producer, Indiana, 28%, and then still put the mash bill out.
Yes.
You can lead people to what it is, even if you don't,
But Compass
volume.
Box is selling themselves as one, I think, a blender,
Yes.
and two, the ability to get those stocks that they're getting. And you'd be hard pressed to find someone better blending, a company that's better blenders than Compass Box. So they're kind of they're unique in just of I think in what they're doing and what they're able to get a hold of with all these crazy stocks. I know that there are blenders with American distillate getting MGP stuff, but the range of stocks that you're getting with Compass Box, I think it's really hard to beat. Now they can say, we're going to add 2% of this, and it's going to throw everything over the top.
I just meant just their openness to be like, this is what's inside, and to my point is, if you're doing that, I would be proud of what we picked. I mean, are we really, we're taking home a best whiskey world. Boom. You're proving your palate's good. Sorry, Mitch, I didn't mean to cut you off. I got you. I feel like I'm kind of overshining. I don't know, trampling on you. I'm rambling.
So, to me, I think there's two categories. There's best distillation and best blend. So, right, the representative won because of their ability to blend, and that there is an art form to blending, right? Compass Box throws 2% of something in there, and it makes it magical, and they knew to do that, and nobody else did. So, they deserve all the accolades they can get for that. At the same time, the representative made, whatever blend that was. They spent the time, they spent the money, they spent the, R&D on making that, and that deserves, something. But, they didn't make it. So call it what it is. It's a blending award. It's not a, distillation award.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to focus on that because there's, we're 23 minutes in and we spent a lot of that time talking about it, but
Yeah.
Whatever.
I wanted to talk about it also to kind of get it out of the way.
Well, it is something that's going to come up, and they should come up, just because they're obviously they're a dominant force outside of Kentucky. There's not many other places that are that big that have that much control outside of Kentucky.
Yeah.
I know a couple companies aiming to do that, but we'll see if they get there.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay, so outside of having something from MGP, from Indiana,
Okay.
what's your recollection? What's your recollection of the first Indiana whiskey that you had that was not MGP?
My very first one, hold on, I might as well break out a different sample here because it's of the same brand, but I didn't have it. It was a very young Starlight finished is what I had. Is the very first thing I had from them. So I'm going to pour a Starlight 4-year-old single barrel pick. That's 58 to have a little sip here with it. When I first had it, and this was before Starlight had gotten, I was going to say, more of its accolades or following. Mine had a titch of a little bit of a funk edge to it that kind of threw it off at that point. It's not like I didn't think it was bad, but I just thought it was something, could have been cleaned up a little bit. But this, that was fairly early on. And I'll be honest, I don't even remember what finish it was. So, I mean, not the biggest recollection there. But I do remember them getting better like this. Even on the nose on this one, this smells much more grain forward, I was going to say, than the one I had before. It doesn't have any of that little high edge. It's got a nice, almost like a malty note to it. So cleaned up quite a bit. So I was going to say, but my very first one, I was, in between on. But I'll come back to Starlight in a bit here. So I was going to say, it didn't like kick things over the edge on the very first one I had. So, Mitch, what was the first one you had? Oh, he's got it in his hand.
Ooh, a hard truth.
See?
So I'm switching over.
So,
let's see here. The first one I ever had was a Starlight, but this is before they started bottling. Right, I live not far away, so I went up and I was like, "Oh, sweet! There's a distillery tour not far from here. Let's go!" And they have wine, so my girlfriend at the time will like it. So they pulled some out of a barrel, right, with a thief and poured it for us, and like it was magical, right? Because they pulled it out of a barrel with a thief, and you're just there with your glass, like, "Please, sir, may I have some more? This is amazing." And of course, it was after like all the gin and grappa and stuff that they made that I was not a fan of, so I was, clinging on for a branch to just save me. So I loved that, but the first one I had that wasn't that, I think, was the Weeder from Spirits of French-Lec.
Right. That's a 50, was it a 50-50 or
60-40?
60-40.
And I didn't like it. It was not my profile. So, right, like I was, at the time I was still a Cooper. I was all about wood impact. Like that's what I really searched for in whiskey. Like, what did the wood do to this? And it is a very grain forward, whiskey. Like it's all about the wheat and the corn. So I tried it and I was just like, this bourbon doesn't taste like wood. Like this isn't that exciting to me. Like, what weird barrels did he use? None. Okay, well, all right, I can buy cheaper wheat whiskey from Maker's Mark, or wheat bourbon.
Oh, foolproof.
So, right, we were all young and dumb at one point, and then you grow and you start to, kind of be like, oh, like that's actually a flavor profile, like graininess, right? Like it's interesting. Some people really like this. We're all entitled to our own opinions, but yeah, like tasting the grain is kind of important. It's not just about, like, oh, what's the toast on this? What did you char to? Like, how long where in the warehouse did you age this? Because that does, all this weird fun stuff. It was like, no, this is really good grain, and we, pot stilled it so you could get all those, long chain esters. And I was like, I don't give a crap about long chain esters. Like, show me what the lignans broke down into. So, yeah. Mitch.
So if you have kids, I think your kids' names are going to be Esther and Lignan.
No.
I still, and what's funny about the Weeder is if I remember right, because we had tried it and I got it because it was I liked what it was representing, but they never really seemed to be fully on board with it. Because it was just kind of like, yeah, this is just our really young stuff. It's just so we can put a product out. And it's been sealed up, and I think it's got gas in it too. But it's like almost 3/4 bottle full. And I was always going to take it once the real Weeder came out and do a very unfair comparison. And now I have two different William Daltons And so I do want to do that at some point. And I know it will be a very, very unfair comparison. But what I'm wondering is if I'll be able to pull out what the early stages of Dalton, out of that. Because I have a feeling that I will, and they'll be very strong. Those very strong notes, whereas William Dalton is just a nice chocolatey whiskey. Just really, really good. So my first one that I became aware of was Old 55. That was in a online tasting that I did, and it was I was I'll say amazed, because the stuff that I got to try it was different, and it's not stereotypical craft. It's not as grain forward as some craft is. Just very well done. And I've got a little bit of the sweet corn left, which that in itself is that's just
interesting ride.
It's very interesting. I mean, you have to try it at least once. But then I've got this one, which I will open at some point, because I'm waiting to do this, because this is an Old 55 single barrel pick that Magnum Rose was part of, and this was for it's called the Evil Birthday, because I think they picked it on Evel Knievel's birthday. And I had 2 bottles of it, and I had the one, and it's a really good pick. I was very, very impressed with Old 55. And then I think the second one that I had was Spirits of French Lick, and yes, I'm a fan. And then it took a while before I had Starlight, and actually and honestly, I haven't had a lot of Starlight, and I know there's a lot of Starlight to have. It's like it's almost like, you could joke about the Good Times finishes, because I go to the store by me, and there's all this Good Times with everything, and it's like, let's finish it in mustard. Yes, let's do that. It's almost the case with Starlight too.
Well, that's
what if we finished it in mustard and rose petals?
They're one, and I wanted to bring it up, that I think they're a distillery that's almost known for finishing more than its original distillate. Like, if you see picks all over the place for different places, groups and whatnot, I'd say 80-90% of them you see are a finished whiskey pick, rather than just like their straight distillate. It hits one of the. It's just a weird thing with that one, as far as what looking from the outside in. I don't care what you do with it. It's great that you're trying a million different things, but I find it weird that everyone's working the finish side of it, and you're not getting as many, like, say, just a straight single barrel pick that you'll see come from them.
Yeah. I would honestly like to try more of their stuff. I would like to visit and get more of a grasp on the base, because I've had just the normal bourbon as a sample, and then a local pick did a single barrel pick of bourbon, and it was good. It was a nice barrel proof bourbon, but I don't really have a grasp on their range.
For me, and the one I'm having is the one, this Kansas City Whiskey Club one you had. There's a little bit of a green grassy note halfway through that you have to work your way over. It's almost like getting a slip of a blade of grass.
I'm amazed that you still have some of that. That bottle's been long gone for me.
I had one box of like ones that I'm going to bring someplace, and it's like, here, anybody who wants to try something, here's a box of 60 whiskeys. Feel free.
That had one of my favorite Tater stickers of all time. It had Randy Marsh on it, when the episode where he was addicted to viewing things online, and it just had the shot of him by a computer, and it said something like, "It's that good."
Fair.
The sticker was better than this. But I would, someday I'd like to go there just because there's a lot of the stuff out there, and the at least the Indiana stuff that I haven't had Moondrops yet. I've only had Hard Truth, but Old 55 I've had what he has put out. I've had the single barrel, the bottled and bond. I haven't had the bottled and bond corn whiskey, sweet corn whiskey, but I've had the sweet corn and tried the barrel strength. And I've had almost everything that Alan's put out because, I'm a fan. So, and he's got a lot of labels that he's put out, different things. And so, hands?
Just bad hands. Just too quick.
Bad hands?
Bad hands. That's all. Just bad hands.
Neek.
just a quick hand didn't enter faster than I should have done. Yeah. That's all. And then you're into it. That's all. So hey, Neil, how's it going? Okay. So and you hit another one, like you just hit on Hard Truth. That's another one that has I think has been very solid when you're talking about like the quality of Indiana whiskey. I think Spirits of French, like the way from our show, how much we've had of it and other stuff. Obviously, you can tell we really enjoy it. I think it's a very good representative. But like you said, Old 55, unique stuff. Once people start having it and you try it, it's once again unique, really good way to do it. Really center heart cuts on a lot of stuff compared to other craft whiskey producers, which I think makes them different in just that point alone, because other people are usually trying to lean a little left or lean a little right to pull some flavor either way out of it, and they're kind of honing in, like you said, it tastes a little more traditional in that manner, where it's you're looking for the center cleanest part of it, not necessarily like the edges. But it doesn't taste like Kentucky bourbon. No. I'm just saying it's
it's pot still, but it's something, there's something different about it, but it's very clean. It's a very, very clean whiskey. Very enjoyable too.
So that's what I was saying. So I think you're getting a lot of their craft producers starting to lift up the state from what people are having whenever they try it. Now I don't know. I haven't had a lot of ones, but outside of say the 5 or 6 we've mentioned this evening. My bad, but
getting it, that's the issue.
More and more of the damn things.
Yeah, it's getting it, because I can't get Old 55 around me. Sometimes Sealbox has it, and the only reason I mentioned Sealbox because that's kind of the go-to place to find this, to find that stuff, and that's where I got most of the Old 55 that I had gotten before. But now there's places like ABV Barrel Shop where they do have Old 55 picks, but they might have a Hard Truth also, and I think Hard Truth has got a pretty good visitor experience as well.
Yeah,
I think they're the ones that have ATV trails or something. I'm trying to remember that.
It was on Distillers Talk, but the problem is he's had everybody from Indiana.
Well, I know. Yeah, that's just yeah. And I remember Moondrops was on there, and I'll be really interested when later this year, I think, when Old Homestead opens up, to have Alan interview Joe Lee and their distiller on Distillers Talk. Awkward.
Yeah. Be interesting too. That'd be pretty damn
it would be funny. It'll be funny, but yeah.
I think they'd both need to, it's one you might not want to broadcast live. You might want to have that be able to edit at some point.
A lot of bleeping.
Should we be the mediators for said interview?
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. So yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I know that there's more there are more smaller distilleries in Indiana, but those are the ones that I think come to mind. There's probably I don't know that there's really anyone's really producing anything, and certainly it's nothing that we're going to get. I mean, Mitch, you might get it, just because somebody will cross the state line, or you could cross the state line.
One of those people who hates Indiana. It's
How are
very
you gonna
odd.
get into that? Like, Mitch, since you're from Kentucky, you've been a distiller, a cooper. Do you think there's a little bit of like? Sometimes there's healthy animosity between states. It's okay to have like a rivalry. How do the people of Kentucky feel about the people of Indiana, Mitch?
So you know how Canada is sometimes described as like the apartment above a meth lab? People in Kentucky feel the opposite about that, right? They feel like they're the apartment below the meth lab. So I don't know if it's healthy, but like people in Kentucky just love crapping all over Indiana, and people in Indiana love crapping all over Kentucky. It's a little bit of a rivalry. It's I don't know. The thing for me is you have to cross the river to get there, and the bridges here in Louisville have a good luck. Have a slightly storied history of late. We basically have three, two of which are now we've got four. Three interstates and like just a 4-lane street bridge. But two of them are tolled. One of them broke, and that left like the 4-lane street bridge. So if you're like, hey, I don't really feel like spending $12 to visit Indiana, like perhaps 47th of on the list of best states in America, you were relegated to like fighting downtown traffic, going across this bridge that looks like crap. Like it was in the Bill Murray film, what is it, Stars or whatever, like, right? And it looked kind of crappy back then, and
it's not better now.
So it's not better now. So it's just one of those things where it's like, why would you go to Indiana when you could just go anywhere else, and not deal with these bridges? And it's just colored my whole thing about Indiana for a while. That, and I had an ex from there that did not work out like big time. So,
Okay.
horrible state.
But is this the whole state, or is my understanding there's a difference between Southern Indiana and Indiana?
I don't care. Right?
Hey, as long as you're honest about it.
Yeah, I like that.
Southern Indiana is what I live nearby. So it's like, hey, if you just drive through this terrible area, it gets less bad. You're like, or I could just not, like, hang a left and then avoid all of it, right? But no, it is what it is, right? I'm messing with them now. Like, I still want to eventually go to Indianapolis. I have a degree from a college in Indiana, which also might color my strong dislike of Indiana, but whatever,
No, but Dave's right. It's kind of like Wisconsin, Illinois. It's you talk all this crap about them at the same time. Like we just went to Chicago for vacation. They'll come up here. It's just it's just part of it. I made fun of a lot of some Illinois parents that thought 36 degrees was time for shorts and no jacket for their kids to run around the park. I was like, you guys all look good, but you're all getting a fucking cold.
Had to pay for the bars.
When was this, Mitch? Was that how
he was young?
I'm under an NDA out of Indiana. Thank you very much.
Yeah. He was a non-distilling producer at the time.
He's not allowed to comment on such things that may or may not have happened.
Yeah. So, okay, in at least talking about the Indiana and the history of Indiana distilling, a really good source for finding stuff, because we do have a local historian in our midst. But where are we at? The Alchemist Cabinet. Just go to the alchemistcabinet.wordpress.com and look that up. And there's a whole lot of stuff about the history of distilling in Indiana. And Alan and a group of people are trying to bring back the Daisy's, the Spring Mill and the now I'm trying to remember. There's two parts to this. Beck's Mill. That's right. Beck's Mill at Daisy Spring. And because we went there on the when we were visited, and a lot of the old distilleries still there in this state park, and there actually have people that have gotten stuff together, and they have a still. They've got the old still's there, but nobody's going to use it. But they've got a still, fermenters, and everything else, and they're going to distill on site at this state park, and that'll be really, really cool to have that. You look at like what they do at Mount Vernon, something like that. Other states can realize, hey, there was a rich history in Indiana, and they said at one time there's well over 150 distilleries, and then Prohibition came about, which killed a lot of things. But because they were so big in apple brandy production, they're like, well, we're not just killing the distilleries, we're going to cut down all your trees. And so they destroyed all their trees that produced all this stuff. And that was, I mean, the whole Prohibition was stupid anyway, but that was just like total insult to injury. But I understand those trees were specifically for brandy. Those weren't eating apples. Them was distilling apples. But the fact that they just clear cut everything, and you had an area that was just so prolific with its distillation, and to get that to come back, I think that's a major undertaking, and I would like to see the other Indiana distillers all make an apple brandy. I think that would be really cool if they did that, and they all brought back an Indiana apple brandy.
Well, do that, or even if they go out there and distill, like have a pre-made mash and distill something out there. I mean,
yeah,
it's some way to work. I don't know. It makes having an event there easier if you're trying to raise money for a park. I think that totally plays into that, and it's something where, like you're saying, you could each go out there and distill everyone over the summer, but say in fall you have like a big event where everyone comes and you taste all the brandy, and it's a fundraiser for the park.
Yeah,
I mean that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, Mitch won't go, but still.
Yeah, he would say, "Fuck that, those Indiana people."
If only Alan was in Kentucky. Like I feel like we would be buds if he was in Kentucky. But there's this divide that I'm never gonna get over. It's called the Ohio River right now. I'm just.
All right, so I had some Starlight.
All right.
Still iffy on that one.
I do have a question for Shannon. She said at least it wasn't JCM. I have no idea who that is. Like
John Cougar Melon sucks. That's who that is.
So strong disdain there.
I guess he feels about them like I feel about Indiana. So.
I mean, it's funny because I did see an ad for, and this is not dumping on them at all, for a Good Times finished in Concord grape. And it was called like Good Times Grape Drank. So what's the sticker on it? And I thought, that could either be really fun or just not good.
Holy cow. Sorry. Whatever, Kevin. I almost launched whiskey out my nose there. I felt it like the coughing sneeze that you see like hit the back end of your nose, and it's just like it's burning a bit. Damn you for that. All right. Okay, so overall, what today is your thought on Indiana whiskey? Where does it place in the world of whiskey? Because I have a thought of this at the end, just due to states becoming prolific, or I'd almost like to see more sections of the country become more prolific rather than a state. But Texas, you're fucking like 5 states big, so that's part of the problem with you. Sorry, they have their own territory. Hell, they might have 2 territories in their state. So, but what are your thoughts overall on Indiana whiskey? Where does it sit in the pantheon of booze? Speaking of which, I'm gonna grab.
I think
Solid.
Indiana booze is kind of like having a chocolatier near Hershey, Pennsylvania. They are overshadowed greatly. And some of them hit above their weight, and some of them don't. Much like every other state ever, right? Like some are great, some are terrible. MGP is the elephant in the room, right? They're not as big as Texas. They're not Kentucky. They don't have kind of the established names other than MGP that, like some other states have, right? Like Westward for out west, and what's their faces in Utah? My brain just stopped.
High West.
High West.
Thank you. Right. So like they're overshadowed. I think they are probably 6 on the state lists of like whiskey, and that's discounting MGP. But that's kind of personal opinion.
Well, everything is. That's why we ask it. Mike, your thoughts?
I think do like a lizard impersonation there.
I don't know what happened. That would have had a lot of. I don't know how to smoke to it.
I think that distilled in Indiana gives a little bit of negativity to some people, and I get it. I understand it. I sometimes agree with it, but I think it's unfair to the other distillers in Indiana who are putting out. What do you got, Mitch?
1776 sherry cask finish, so MGP.
Oh, so but I think it's unfair to the other distillers who are putting stuff out, and when people see, because again, Starlight sources things out, and people would get something from Starlight, say distilled in Indiana. It's like, oh, whatever. Or even you look some from Spirits of French Lick, distilled. I'll have to look and see exactly what the bottle says. I'll look at Old 55. Old 55 says distilled and bottled by Old 55. So it doesn't just blankly say distilled in Indiana. But I think people still say Indiana, and they're like, MGP stuff. I don't think it's fair to the other distillers, and say I have not been able to try from everybody in there, but what I have tried, I've been very happy with. And mostly happy with MGP stuff, as long as someone's not trying to blow smoke up my butt.
The Dalton I have here says Indiana straight bourbon whiskey, distilled and bottled by Spirits of French Lick and West Baden. So they do make a statement, and they give their proper city and all. West Baden, just to throw people off. Well,
yeah.
I think you're right, Mitch. I think in general, they're underrated, even including MGP. But I think most of the whiskey public is starting to catch up on that, because they're starting to do a little research on where things are coming from. Are starting, rather than just being, "Oh, this is it." It's they kind of want to I don't want to say be an aficionado, but have a little more command of the subject and what they're drinking, and who doesn't want to know a little bit more of the history of what you're talking about. I don't know.
Well, and here's one thing that I think it's really hard. Kevin's on a roll tonight. I think Indiana and the locals to there, even the ones that won't cross the river, could probably tell me the truth on this thing. But I don't think Indiana is a state friendly for distillers and definitely not for shipping their products. So they could be quietly producing a lot of really good stuff, but many people are not going to try it unless they go to Indiana.
Well, and that's not one that you hit up for. Like,
and as Mitch pointed out, who wants to go to Indiana? But But you got places like Hard Truth has got, again, it's a destination. Old Homestead when it opens, because you already have the established Patoka Lake, and I'm honestly looking forward to going there and checking that out, because I think
Well, it's a
that'd be
vacation
fun.
spot that is
that's
all in one. That's what I like.
Yeah, that's adult Disneyland. Between
can
the
walk from one
brewery,
spot
the winery, the boats,
distillery,
houseboats, Jeep trails. That sounds pretty slick.
I'm staying in a silo.
I went up there, asked my girlfriend if she wanted the silo room. She said no.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not a fan of the circle rooms. Is she against that?
Not. Yeah.
Some people have like aversions to it.
I think she was trying to put me in a corner, and a circular room just wouldn't work for her, right? But she's watching. I'm in trouble. Okay. But
slushies, yes, that's another thing that makes it good.
That's right. Yeah. Hey, when you could get a Capri Sun pouch of a wine slushy, I mean, come on.
I mean, it's all. We went up there, like, we did the wine. I drug her through Spirits of French Lick, and then we went to Patoka Lake, and I was basically like, you choose the entire wine flight, me as well. And I took my little courtesy sip and was like, yep, that tastes like bad Welch's, thank you. And pushed it over to her, and she drank the rest of it. Wine's just not my thing. It was a blast. But I was just going to go back. Like, I worked in a liquor store for a little bit, just because I love liquor and being around it. And the amount of people who would come in and see a single barrel, right? Because I worked at Westport Whiskey and Wine for a bit, and they really support small craft distilleries. And they'd look and they'd be like, oh, small craft distillery. And they would turn it around and look for distilled in Indiana, because they didn't want craft. They wanted FGP. Was intense. Like, if they didn't see that, they'd just be like, I don't even want to sample this. They'd set it down and go buy, like, their electric.
But I get that too, because there's a comfort level to it.
Mm-hmm.
They know, all right, this is what I'm going to get with this.
Yeah, it's okay.
But those same people always go out. Their steak place is Applebee's. So,
hey, that's that. I mean, you might have hit below the belt a bit there on that one. And
but you know what I mean. But it's
even low.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who goes to Applebee's for steak? That's just. I
don't know, man.
I'd rather go back, but I'd see Ponderosa is better than Applebee's steak.
No.
I don't know.
No. Oh, that's so sweet that you believe that, though.
They're the same. They're garbage steaks.
That's what we need to do a show on. cheap steaks and whiskey.
Dude, okay. Is that a night at Distill America? If I can get there Friday night, cheap steaks and whiskey.
Oh Lord. Why can't it just be Costco steaks and whiskey? Right? Like, no offense.
If Costco only had steaks in the deli.
I don't know.
I mean, that would be
enough.
Ours had brisket for a while. Had brisket sandwiches.
Okay, I'm not gonna argue.
They were not bad. They were way better than what you would anticipate.
I think I didn't get one of those when they had those, because it was like $5 or something like that.
Oh, but it was they're like this big. They're massive.
The thing was, right, it was like, I can go here and I can get a hot dog, a drink, and a slice of pizza for $3.49.
Yeah.
Or I can get a sandwich.
But that sandwich,
$1.50 more.
That sandwich was easily a two-person sandwich. And the way that they had to make it, they had to put the ring around it because everything was going to fall off. They put so much meat and coleslaw and everything else on it. Everything was falling off of it. But it was easily a two-person sandwich.
I miss their little turkey pesto sandwich. That was my
jam. I like that turkey pesto sandwich. That was pretty good.
All right, that's fair enough, Kevin. You don't have to eat cheap steak.
I'm driving to Madison to drink cheap whiskey. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna go to Madison and have some of them $2 old fashions.
Hell
I
yeah.
gotta find them.
I'm looking for nickel brandy night while I'm up there in Madison.
I don't know if that still exists anymore, or if you want that brandy. Let's just be honest.
That might be at the Wisconsin Quarter Strip Club.
They don't make it rain; they make it hail.
I was gonna say it's just rude to throw things like that. I'm not even kidding. We'll tell a story about Sean at some point. You get kicked out for throwing change. That's all I know. Not from personal experience, but stories. All right, no Applebee's.
Yeah.
The old fashioned is an easy choice for one of the meals, just because it's a little standard down there. But and I will say yes to the Wisconsin Strip Club. That's because you wanted to go to that damn car show, and I don't know. I'm not prepared.
The nude car show in Wisconsin.
Nude car show. I don't know how
Do
to
it in
work
February in Wisconsin.
Dude, I have to wear like 4 layers to begin with right now. I don't think I could go nude to that, to a car show in Wisconsin. Maybe if it's indoors, I guess.
If it's in February, gotta be careful around those windows with all them glass cutters out, right?
Well, you don't want to touch any metal or any part of you to touch any metal that you.
Oh God! Only imagine if that got stuck. Does anybody have some warm water now?
Yes.
I would love that. The panic would be fantastic.
Who's got vinyl seats?
Because you know it would happen like 3 times.
But I can we're still planning, and we've got like a hard hat tour at New Glarus while we're up in
good for you.
Wisconsin. So we're planning a little bit of the trip around that. Not gonna lie, we must go to this.
You gotta have something. You gotta have a goal, and that's a good one. I haven't been out there in a while, so I don't know. I heard they import the whole thing. All of it's imported. Look at the bottles. It says made in Indiana.
They bring it all in from Ohio.
The whole state's supplied by MGP.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, I'm having some water. I'm sipping that down. All right, we're getting close. We've been on here about an hour. I'd say that's good, but I wanna shoot some shows at people coming up here in the next month or so. We have a whole slew of them. We have one coming up next weekend. We're going to be relabeling that one, but the 17th of April is Edelbrand, where we're talking brandies and beer distillates, going over 5 of them. We had one before, and it was really surprising the amount of flavor that they kicked off of what we had, and that wasn't a brandy. So I'm intrigued to see what the brandies do and how that twists. Then the 24th, we're having Alan on, and we're going to be talking about some ancient distilling techniques. I'm going to say kind of throw back some other options and how things happen and how a couple different places did it. Then on the 1st of May, we're starting a series that Mitch has got. What are we doing in the beginning of your series, Mitch? Or what's your series about?
So it'll be about barrels. Basically, barrels overall do 3 things to any spirit or wine, really. You can either subtract flavor, add flavor, or change flavor with them, right? So part 1 will probably be subtracting flavor. Very important because everybody talks about, it's very, you need a copper still because it'll, bond with the sulfur and creates copper sulfites and pull all the sulfur out, which is hilariously untrue. Like the barrel filters out the overwhelming majority of sulfur. The still doesn't. So you can have an entirely stainless steel still and just put it in a barrel and you'll be fine. Copper is just a great heat conductor. But it pulls out a lot of terrible flavors. And when you compare White Dog to finished whiskey, you really start to see why.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a neat series that we have when we're talking about wood with Mitch. And then on May 8th, we're going to have Adam and Fred Swanson on because we're going to be talking about Distill America, which is going to be coming up about 2 weeks after that, which we're all going to be attending. It's going to be a big weekend. Real excited. So if you're not going, I hear there's still some tickets available.
There are tickets also because we're, I issued, I'm not saying a challenge, but challenges. A task to Miss Adina. And this is what I'm bringing.
Oh,
distilled beetroot. Because if there's anybody who could come up with what can you do with this in a cocktail,
gauntlet thrown.
The bottle
is probably pick it up and slap you around with it.
I'm giving her the bottle so she can come up with whatever. Don't expect anything on the spot, but I think Adina is going to come up with something pretty good.
I think so too.
I'll just go out on a limb and say that. And if you're not following her on Instagram, you should, and look at the cocktails and the stories that go with it, because Dave's okay. Adina's really good.
Oh, and then on the 15th, right before Distill America, we are going to be doing a panel discussion with a few of our friends who went from whiskey fan to someone in the whiskey industry. So we'll be having our former co-host Benjamin Eves on. He's at Kentucky Artisan, so he'll be on.
Who is that?
Is it that Mohawk guy who has country ham tattooed across his chest right here? You got to ask him to take his shirt off so you can see it, folks. Anytime you're in his presence, say you want to see the country ham tattoo. Because there's one up here that says country ham, and then there's one on his ass cheek. That one's I can't even get into that one, but it's country ham. So he'll be on. We'll also be having Josh from Iron Root on. He is a full-time staff member there, and brought on full-time to take care of a few different things there and look over. And if you didn't see it, he had a release of their Cinnamon Grizzly cinnamon whiskey that I believe it's a legitimate thing that they have, but is a fantastic ad for it, just as a joke, because it is if you're a serious producer, it is a little bit of a joke whiskey to make a cinnamon thing. But to be honest, at your bar would be it's a neat, necessary thing, to be honest. And I bet they do sell a lot of it. Let's be honest. And I love that Josh's namesake is the bottle's name, the Cinnamon Grizzly. So he'll be with us that day. And then we're also having Ed on, who is still with the distillery, but they are recently bought out, so they're in the process of changing a name and rebranding things. I don't know the new name of what's going on, so I don't want to give anything that away, but he'll be coming on as well too. And once they do get rebranded, Mike and I visited Dog and Shrub is what it was. The new owners have already opened up and expanded the barreling and finishing process well beyond what was there. So Ed is actually pretty excited about what's going on. So whoever took over seems like they were ready to move in a certain direction right away, which is great. But once they get the name, we'll figure that out, and we'll use that instead of the distillery formerly known as Dog and Shrub, which is kind of like an homage to Prince there. If you people didn't get that, most of you did.
I think they should rename it to Cat and Tree from Dog and Shrub. I think that would just be absolutely
amazing. So busy all the way up to Distill America then. And then we do actually have some other shows in the works going on after that. But we're lined up for that. So keep your eyes out for what's coming up. And I'm working on something maybe for Distill America. If not, there'll definitely be something where everyone will get together and go out to eat and spend some time. But I'm breaking up some samples. I have I believe, 22 samples to might work out for some people. I was gonna say I got 3 different whiskeys at the moment. I'm hoping to make it 5. So there's a point where we might have a pretty decent tasting at some point. So
just spin the wheel, get a sample.
How about spin the wheel, get 5 samples?
A good way to get rid of them.
Well,
not the people, the samples.
Not the people, the samples. You're right.
Yeah.
So, all right, everyone. You guys have a blend of anything this evening, or you just got one left over?
I don't. I poured a little bit of my my MGP Whistle Pig, finished in Tokai barrels.
Ooh. I poured some Hoosier apple brandy to cheers out on. So not whiskey. Sorry.
And Dave's right. Well, there will be a Distill America All-Star show, and
I'm pretty sure that's called Distill America.
Yeah, and at the same time, yes, we all know we're dorks. That's kind of the thing at the same time. So that's okay. You know, should that be the Dork All-Stars? Should that be the nickname under the
More white guys with beards. All right.
Just gonna be telling you about some whiskey.
We could do get our Tim Conway on, and we could be dorks and dwarfs. Dwarf on whiskey.
Dwarf on whiskey. All right, everyone. We will see you guys next Monday. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, it's not the size of the den that matters. It's the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get some more. Have your hands. Some more. Just get some more.